Hey gaming fans! So today I have another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and this one's a little bit different. This one's for the GOAT format. I just recently started getting into this format because it was one that I actually played with back in the day, back in 2005. So basically it's just a format that's kind of locked in time. So you play as if you were using the 2005 ban list and the rotation of cards that were out. So it's a little bit more of it's a different environment, really, to play in this format than it is to play in the current format. So yeah, let's just get to the deck. So this one I call, I guess, like a tomato control style deck. I remember playing something very similar to this back in the day. So we got one Spirit Reaper. So what this deck tries to do is it tries to attack your opponent's hand as quickly as possible. So Spirit Reaper acts as a blocker, and if he damages your opponent, they have to discard a card. So it's part of the theme as well. I also have a chaos theme going on in here, so there's some dark and light. So the next, we have Sangan. He's legal. You're only allowed one Sangan in this format. And another thing to mention, just in case you're not familiar with GOAT format, is you also play the cards as they were originally written back in the day. So you don't play with the current errata. So Sangan, when he dies, you immediately search for the card. The modern printing of Sangan is different. He now, I think it's at the end of turn, or he searches and you can't activate it. I don't know. He's got some errata going on. But no, this is the actual original Sangan. So then we have three of the tomatoes. This guy searches out your main parts of the deck. So he can search out your Sangan, he can search out your Spirit Reaper. Really versatile card. You can set him, and then your opponent attacks him, and then you pull out the card you need. Or you could just ram into something and pull out what you need. Then, part of the discarding of this deck as well is the Don Zalug. He's pretty much your main go-to for getting rid of cards out of your opponent's hand. He's got a 1400 body, and when he attacks and does damage, you can send one random card from your opponent's hand to the discard pile, or graveyard, I should say. The other thing is, if your opponent has no cards in hand, you can send two cards from the top of their deck to the graveyard. Now, that's situational. You might not want to do that, because if they're playing Chaos, you might send a Light and a Dark and set them up, so you gotta be careful. I mean, I guess going against Chaos is always going to be a problem with this deck, because you are discarding cards out of their hand as well. Then we got the One Breaker, because you're only allowed to play one Breaker in this format. And he's a really good card, because there's a lot of back row. A lot of people do set cards in this format. Now we're going to go on to the light monsters. So we have two of the white magical hats. I don't know, I was playing around with if I should play one or two. Essentially, he's like your Don Zalug, but he's a lot weaker. He's only 1000 attack. But I figured I needed some light targets, and he kind of fits with the theme. And then we got two Blade Knights. He's pretty standard in this format. A lot of people do play him, because there is a lot of setting of cards in this format. Oops, sorry. And so he basically, when he attacks, if he's the only monster you control, he negates any effects that happen from that monster. So really good card. So if they have Magician of Faith or something like that set, and you attack it, they're not going to get a card. Then we play three Thunder Dragons, just to thin the deck out a bit and add some more light targets. Also, because we do some tributing in this deck, he does come in handy for the fact that he requires a tribute. And then we have more tribute monsters, which is Thestalos, the Firestorm Monarch. Again, because this is all about trying to rip cards out of your opponent's hand. So he's really good, 2400 attack. And, you'd probably pull him out with Soul Exchange. And so you don't get to attack, but at least you rip a card out of your opponent's hand. And then for the last two monsters, we have the Chaos Engine. So we got Chaos Sorcerer and Black Luster Soldier Envoy at the beginning. You're only allowed one Envoy in this format. And Chaos Sorcerer, because this isn't a full-on Chaos deck, so I can't play like a play set of Sorcerer, because I just don't have enough light and dark targets. And I figure, they're just in here because, it's just a good card to pull out. Always versatile, especially the Luster Soldier. because your opponent will be setting a lot of cards. So now we go on to the spells. So we got Pot of Greed, obviously. Any format that allows Pot of Greed to be played in, you're going to play it. Same with Graceful Charity. Both great cards, you're always going to play that. Another popular card in this format a lot of people play is Delinquent Duo. And it also happens to fit with the theme of knocking cards out of your opponent's hand. So you pay 1,000 life points and then randomly discard one card from your opponent's hand, and then your opponent selects and discards another card from their hand. It's really good. Again, situational though, because you got to be careful. If your opponent is playing Chaos, they're going to discard the targets that they need. Then we got Premature Burial. Another card that I don't know why this is not allowed in the current format, but whatever. You pay 800 life points, you select one monster from your graveyard and special summon it to the field in attack position, and if this card is destroyed, so is the monster. So it's really just your Monster Reborn, because Monster Reborn is not legal in this format. And then we have Snatch Steal, another great card. You basically just take your opponent's monster and attach it with this, and then you can, then during your opponent's turn, they gain 1,000 life points. Most of the time, you're going to steal their monster and then either attack with it, or you're going to tribute it off for one of your tribute cards in your hand, whether it be Thestalos or Thunder Dragon, just to make sure they never get their card back. And then we got Heavy Storm. So if your opponent plays a little sloppy and sets their whole back row, unless they set a lot of chainable cards like Jar of Greed, they're going to be in trouble. So you always like to have this, and this is a popular one for turn one. You set it, and then your opponent gets, thinks that you don't have anything, and then next turn you just activate it and blow up their field. Lightning Vortex. I decided on this one for a shot because this is called goat format, meaning a lot of people do play scapegoats. So they can build a full field of goats. It takes you quite a while just to get rid of those cards. So having a card that can one shot. Plus, you also want to get rid of their monsters to leave a nice pathway for your Don Zalug plays and your Magical Hat plays to get through. So wiping out their field, you have to discard, but that's okay. A lot of times you're going to have like a Thunder Dragon that's doing nothing in your hand anyways, so you can discard. I mean, I was thinking about playing Sinister Serpent as well, but I don't think it really fits too well in this build because it doesn't do much else. Then we have the Soul Exchanges, pretty self-explanatory, especially if your opponent sets a card, sets a monster, you just tribute it off and then you summon your Thestalos. They lose a monster and they lose a card from their hand. That's pretty much what it is. But also, if you have to, you could use a Thunder Dragon. And then we round it off with 3 MSTs because I don't like back row. So I'm going to go after their back row as much as possible. Again, to try and make sure that my Zalugs get through with their attacks. You don't want to run into a Sakuratsu Armor or something like that, or a Mirror Force. Then for the traps. So we have more back row hate. So this deck is playing, 3 MSTs, 2 Dust Tornadoes, and a Heavy Storm. So you're always going to be going after their back row. 2 Compulse. I decided on this one because you might want to bounce their monster back and then force them to discard it. And it's a reactive spell, or a trap, I should say. So if you could set it, and if your opponent goes to play something, you can bounce it back on the, during their turn, or during the end of their turn, or wherever. And then Mirror Force, just again to deal with monsters. And 1 Ring of Destruction. Again, this is the original Ring of Destruction, not the crappy errated one. So you could destroy 1 face-up monster and inflict damage equal to the destroyed monster's attack to the life points of both you and your opponent. I believe the new errata on this is I think it only goes after your opponent's card. You can only destroy your opponent's card or something like that. And if your opponent would die from this, you can't activate it. So this is the original printing. This is the best one because you can kill your opponent with it. Anyways, yeah, that's it. I mean, you don't really play an extra deck in this, or what during this format would have been called a fusion deck, because there was no other extra monsters. But I don't fuse in this. I don't have the fusion stuff in this deck to play a fusion deck, so I didn't put anything together for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You're just trying to attack your opponent's hand. Anyways, yeah, I think this is a fun format. I mean, it's good for me because I don't play, you know, I've been out of this game for so long that all the new stuff is overwhelming to me. So, you know, I'm still trying to build new decks, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with this format too. Anyways, let me know what you think. Hope you liked the video. Leave some comments down below. Hope you subscribe, and talk to you later.